Chapter 1, The Game Begins. The soft light from the lamps bathed the dining room in an amber glow, creating a cozy atmosphere, but also subtly revealing the signs of time on each piece of furniture. Liam watched Charlotte as she swirled her wine glass between her delicate fingers, the ruby-red liquid dancing in small whirlpools. The fruity aroma of the red wine filled the air, mingling with the soft floral perfume she wore, a fragrance he knew as well as the back of his hand. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, but it carried a subtle weight, a silent melody of routine that had been repeating itself in recent months. Their relationship, once vibrant and full of new experiences, seemed to have entered a lull, a stability that, paradoxically, stifled them somewhat. Charlotte raised her eyes, meeting Liam's gaze. Her brown eyes, normally bright and full of life, seemed to carry a shadow of melancholy. She smiled slightly, a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and took a sip of wine. The liquid slid down her throat, leaving an astringent taste on her tongue, a contrast to the initial sweetness of the aroma. "What are you thinking about?" Liam asked, his soft voice breaking the silence. Charlotte hesitated for a moment, as if gathering the courage to say something that had been on her mind for some time. She carefully placed the glass on the table, the soft clink of the crystal echoing in the room. "About us," she finally replied, her voice low and hesitant. "About how things have been." Liam nodded slowly, understanding what she meant. He knew something needed to change, but he didn't know where to start. Monotony had settled in like a dense fog, obscuring the passion that had once consumed them. "I miss," Charlotte continued, her voice now an almost inaudible whisper, "that spark. That adventure." Liam felt a tightness in his chest. He missed it too. The impromptu dinners, the surprise trips, the nights spent talking about everything and nothing. Routine had swallowed it all, leaving only a trace of familiarity. Charlotte took a deep breath, as if preparing for a deep dive. Her fingers began to drum softly on the table, a sign of nervousness that Liam knew well. "I've been thinking," she said, her eyes fixed on the table, "about exploring some fantasies." The words echoed in the room, laden with meaning. Liam felt a mixture of surprise, curiosity, and a pang of apprehension. He had never imagined that Charlotte would suggest something like this. He watched her attentively. Her hands trembled slightly, betraying her nervousness. The gleam in her eyes, however, was different from the melancholic gleam before. It was a gleam of excitement, of boldness, of a flame that seemed to have been rekindled. "Fantasies," he repeated, trying to process the information. Charlotte finally raised her eyes and looked directly at him. There was a determination in her gaze that he had never seen before. "Yes," she replied firmly. "Things we've never dared to explore before. Hidden desires. Things that can bring us even closer." Liam felt his heart beat faster. Charlotte's proposal was bold, no doubt, but also incredibly exciting. The idea of exploring new territories with her, of rediscovering the passion that seemed to have been lost, deeply attracted him. He thought for a moment, considering the implications of the proposal. There was fear, of course, the fear of the unknown, the fear that something could go wrong. But there was also a strong sense of excitement, an irresistible urge to venture into this new territory with Charlotte. He took her hand, interlacing his fingers with hers. Her skin was warm and slightly damp. "Tell me more," he said, his voice now filled with curiosity and a growing desire. Charlotte smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her face. The tension in her shoulders seemed to lessen a little. "I've been reading some things," she began, explaining her ideas, her desires, her insecurities. The conversation flowed into the night, accompanied by wine and a growing sense of intimacy. They talked about their fears, their limits, about what they expected from this new experience. With each word, each confession, the connection between them grew stronger. When the night was already late, Liam felt that a new flame had been lit in their relationship. A flame of boldness, of excitement, and of a deep desire to reconnect with Charlotte on an even deeper level. "I accept," he finally said, squeezing her hand. "Let's explore these fantasies together." A radiant smile lit up Charlotte's face. The gleam in her eyes was intense, almost mesmerizing. "I knew you'd say yes," she whispered, moving closer to him and sealing their lips in a passionate kiss. A kiss that promised new adventures, new discoveries, and a new phase in their relationship. The wine continued to flow, warming their bodies and their tongues. Charlotte described her fantasies in increasing detail, at first with hesitation, but soon with a confidence that surprised them both. She spoke about her attraction to voyeurism, to the idea of being watched, of being on display, of surrendering herself to other people's gazes. She also spoke about her curiosity to explore the touch of another person, the sensation of having her skin caressed by unfamiliar hands. Liam listened attentively, absorbing every word, every nuance in her voice. He felt an excitement growing inside him, a mixture of desire and admiration for Charlotte's boldness. He had never seen her so open, so vulnerable, so sexy. "And you?" Charlotte asked, her eyes fixed on his. "What are your fantasies?" Liam hesitated for a moment. He had always been more reserved, more restrained regarding his desires. But the atmosphere they had created that night, the honesty and openness they shared, encouraged him to open up as well. He spoke about the excitement of seeing Charlotte surrender to pleasure, the idea of sharing that pleasure with another person, the dynamics of a foursome. He confessed a certain curiosity to explore his own sexuality, to experience new sensations and new connections. The conversation went on until the end of the night, when the candles went out and the wine was gone. They had explored a new and exciting territory, a territory that promised to transform their relationship forever. When they got up from the table, there was a new energy between them, a palpable electricity that made their bodies tingle. They hugged tightly, feeling each other's warmth, their accelerated breathing, the promise of something more. "So," Charlotte whispered, with a mischievous smile on her lips, "when do we start planning?" Liam smiled back, feeling a wave of excitement run through his body. "As soon as possible," he replied, kissing her softly. In the following days, the conversation about fantasies became a recurring topic between them. They researched online, read articles and forums on the subject, seeking information and ideas. Charlotte was particularly interested in exploring the dynamics of a foursome, involving another couple. At first, the idea seemed a little daunting to Liam, but the more they talked about it, the more he felt drawn to the possibility. The idea of sharing such an intimate experience with Charlotte and another couple excited him in a way he had never experienced before. They set limits, defining what they felt comfortable exploring and what was out of the question, with open and honest communication being fundamental to both of their safety and confidence. One night, while they were lying in bed, Charlotte browsed some pages on the internet, with the soft light from the cell phone screen illuminating their faces. "Look at this," she said, showing a photo of a smiling couple, with a caption that talked about the experience of a foursome. Liam looked at the photo and felt a pang of anxiety, but also a strong curiosity. "What do you think?" Charlotte asked, with an inquisitive look. Liam took a deep breath. "I think we can try," he replied, with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. Charlotte smiled and kissed him passionately. "I knew you'd be up for it," she whispered. From that moment on, the search for a couple to share the experience became the main focus. They created profiles on dating apps aimed at this type of encounter, describing their desires and their expectations. The wait for responses was filled with anxiety and anticipation. With each notification on their cell phones, their hearts beat faster. One night, while they were having dinner at a small Italian restaurant, Charlotte's cell phone vibrated on the table. She picked up the device and read the message with an expression of surprise and excitement. "It's a response," she said, looking at Liam with shining eyes. "A couple. Noah and Emma." Liam felt his heart race. This was the first real contact, the first concrete possibility of realizing the fantasy they had built together. "What do they say?" he asked, trying to disguise his nervousness. Charlotte read the message aloud. Noah and Emma briefly introduced themselves and expressed interest in meeting Liam and Charlotte. They suggested a casual meeting so they could get to know each other better and see if there was a connection between them. A mixture of excitement and apprehension took hold of Liam. The prospect of meeting another couple and sharing such intimate desires was both stimulating and daunting. "What do you think?" Charlotte asked, with an anxious smile. Liam took a deep breath and looked into Charlotte's eyes. He saw in them the same excitement and the same apprehension that he felt. "I think we should accept," he replied firmly. "Let's give it a shot." Charlotte smiled broadly and picked up her cell phone to reply to the message. She arranged a dinner for the following week at a discreet restaurant with a more intimate atmosphere. In the days leading up to the meeting, the anxiety grew exponentially. Liam and Charlotte talked incessantly about what to expect, how to behave, what to say. They wanted to make a good impression, but they also wanted to be honest about their desires and expectations. On the night of the meeting, Liam dressed carefully, choosing clothes that made him feel confident and comfortable. He watched Charlotte as she got ready, admiring her beauty and the determination in her eyes. When they arrived at the restaurant, they were greeted by a waiter who led them to a reserved table in a more secluded corner of the dining room. The dim lighting and soft music created a pleasant and relaxing atmosphere. While they waited for Noah and Emma, Liam and Charlotte exchanged nervous but also complicit glances. They were in this adventure together, ready to explore a new chapter in their lives. A few minutes later, two unfamiliar faces appeared at the entrance of the restaurant. A tall, dark-haired man with a confident smile, and a woman with long, brown hair and a captivating gaze. Noah and Emma. The game had begun.